Hey everyone, Zephin Blacksburg here, and I have Brandon Epstein, and he is a former college football player turned professional fitness model and serial entrepreneur. These days, he spends his time helping people look great and feel awesome over at ZenDudeFitness.com. And he can also be found hosting the Zen Dude Fitness podcast, where he's always looking for new ways to make fat loss fun, simple, and efficient for everybody. So, Brandon, I don't exactly need fat loss. I could actually use a little bit of muscle building. But we'll talk about fat loss too for everybody, because this is not just men, this is not just women, this is something that everybody can do. So where do we get started with, I guess, maybe baseline, figuring out where we're at and then determining where to go from there?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So if you want to have a conversation today about kind of putting on muscle or, just creating the physique that you desire, of course, the first place you start, you have to understand where you are if you want to get to a, said goal, if you have an outcome, or if you have a body weight you want to reach, you want a physique that you want to get to, the first thing you have to do is understand where your starting point is. Because when it comes to all this stuff, when it comes to physical training, like the science is out there. We know what works. We know what does not work. And it's not so much of a subjective thing where we're going to be like, we're going to be experimenting a little bit, but we need to be able to track things so we can see objectively what is working and what is not for you. And so the first place to start is, of course, like, opening up a spreadsheet on day one and saying, okay, well, where am I at on these like three markers? So I usually like to have people look at where am I at with my weight, physically, how much do I weigh, where am I at with like my measurements. So if I was going to take like a tape measure and look at like my bicep, my quad, my waist, my chest, what are all my main measurements? And the third thing is where is my strength at? What am I lifting on my core list? My bench press, my squat, my row. And so once you have like a good baseline, you understand where you're at there, you can start to move forward, because every day and week that goes by forward, you can say, okay, is my weight moving? Are my measurements getting larger, or is my strength increasing? And because sometimes these things will show up in one way and not the other. So you might put on some weight, you may not see the size increase. You may put on some strength, you may not see any size, or you may not see any weight gain. So it's always really good to make sure you're tracking all three of these things from the get-go.
Awesome. And so that's something that is pretty important for everybody, because if you don't know where you're at, you don't know where you're going to go to. Let's talk a little bit about just the benefits of why this would be important for people to do, whether it's burning fat or gaining muscle, because obviously there's tons of benefits across the board.
Absolutely. So, talking about putting on muscle, right? Why do we care about strength training? If you're an average person and like you're not trying to be a bodybuilder and you're just like, well, why should I lift weights? Well, the biggest reason why you should lift weights is because it's been proven through a lot of the most recent research that's come out that our muscular system is the only system that we can like objectively train and measure. And so it's not like you can like train, it's not like you can go somewhere, train your circulatory system and get it to start performing better. Maybe you can try to take some like supplements. You can, do things like that to artificially change the performance. But completely naturally, you can train your physical muscular system to start performing better. And what we've seen is that the body is very intuitive. When you start to train your muscular system, all of the other systems start to follow suit. So your skeletal system will start to increase. Bone density has been shown to increase when you start strength training. Your circulatory system, your respiratory system, all start to work better, and it makes sense, right? Because every other system in your body needs to level up if it's going to be able to produce better results physically. So if you're going to be lifting weights and you want to lift more weights, well, you're going to need more blood flow, carrying oxygenated blood to that muscle. And so everything has to level up. So it's a pretty cool game, and you can play it constantly. And so a lot of people think that, strength training is just about the aesthetics, but really it's like the number one thing you can do for anti-aging. And so that's why so many, chiropractors and physicians who really study this stuff are encouraging the patients to engage in strength training for all their life and continue to do it until they're in their 90s and still having like light free weights to challenge that muscle because it keeps the rest of your body performing at peak levels. So yeah, man, that in big picture for most people, I think that's why it's so important.
And so this isn't just, I know a lot of women are afraid of getting big just from lifting, and actually that doesn't happen quite as often as you think unless you're really trying to get bigger and change your body and your physique. One thing that I want to ask you is, let's say, I'm 6'2" right now. I'm probably about 170. How do I get to where you are? And how long does it take for me to get somewhere like that?
Yeah, man. So obviously it happens through three different ways. So I like to break down like putting on muscle into it's going to come down to your nutrition, it's going to come down to the exercise you're doing, and it's going to come down to the self-care you're doing. So if you're first off, I'm going to start with the one that most people don't talk about much, which is self-care. So if you are stressed out as heck and you are just like not feeling good on a consistent basis, your cortisol levels are going to be through the roof. It's just going to increase your estrogen levels. It's going to make it really hard for you to put on any muscle mass. So that's why you can go years going to the gym. If you're stressed out all the time at work, like you're just going to be plateauing. You're not going to go anywhere. So self-care is massive. So really quickly, what you can do is just like start to gain mastery over your sleep. Make sure that you're getting enough sleep to where you wake up every day and you're feeling refreshed. And the research has shown that there's no set amount of sleep for each person. For you, it could be 4 hours. It could be 10 hours. We don't know. So the easiest way to hack this is to start setting an alarm before you go to bed, not for the morning, but to make sure you go to bed at night, and then just seeing when you start to wake up naturally and seeing how much sleep your body needs and like tracking that. Be like, okay, like you usually wake up naturally around after like 7.5 hours. Cool. And then so you have that kind of as a baseline going forward of how much time you have to budget for sleep. So self-care is huge. Sleep, incorporating meditation into your daily routine. I think everyone should be doing meditation at least once a day. It's going to be incredible for decreasing your cortisol levels, keeping you, chilled out. And then use meditation to actually increase the performance of your physical body and your strength. So I encourage people, if their intention is, I want to put on muscle mass, well, when you do your meditation, that should be one of your biggest intentions when you're in there. You should be dropping yourself down into, a relaxed state of mind, doing some deep breathing, and then doing some deep visualization of you performing better in strength tasks that you ever have before. So let's say, you want to bench 100 pounds for 8 reps, but you've only ever done it for 6. Well, go through this vivid imagery in your mind of repping it out for 8 reps and do it every single day until it becomes so real that those neural pathways are ingrained to a point where you get in there to the gym and your mind's like, oh yeah, I can do 8 because like I perceive it as possible now. And so that's a huge thing that a lot of people don't do is take advantage of the power of their mind. So that falls into like the self-care, right? And so that's like, I'd say, it's probably more, but I'm going to give it like a budget of like 10%. In addition, of course, like the exercise you do is huge. And a lot of people really don't know how to train hard. And that's just like the fact of the matter. So I usually don't train people in person, but when I do, I often see that people don't understand what it means to actually like train hard, to train to failure, to train like with full intention and purpose. And so you need to learn to go through those, that 8, 9, 10th rep that is going to help you grow. Because if you're going to like 8 reps and that's where like you're like, all right, like I worked pretty hard that rep. I'm just going to call it good there. Well, that's not growth right there. You need to take it into those sets where like you're pushing into failure for at least one exercise for every body group in the training. And a lot of people don't do that. And they don't understand. They think they're training hard, but they're not, because they're not taking it to that point. And like, unless you're making really ugly faces in the mirror and like there are a few tears that are being shed every once in a while, like you're probably not training as hard as you should be. So going into the gym, having full intention, having purpose, don't go in there going through the motions. It's like anything else in life. You need to go in there with full intention. My purpose today is to go into the gym and get stronger. And my purpose is to do it with complete control and with complete intention around the exercises that I want to lift. And so that really comes down to when you actually do your lifts, it's like you need to get focusing. You're not, your mind isn't somewhere else. It's like if this is your number one priority to put on muscle mass, we know there is a very strong correlation between strength and muscle size, which is just going to be, hypertrophy, which correlates with the weight that you put on your body. So, easiest way to get you to put on weight is by just making you stronger. And so, every time you go to the gym, that has to be the intention. And if you're not getting stronger, then you need to ask yourself, like, am I training as hard as I should be? What needs to change? You need to gamify the situation. So I'd say that's like the 20%. I know I'm like being very vague in each one of these, but we only have so much time, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to give you what I can. And so the final like 70%, I think really does lie in the nutrition. Okay, so if you if your number one priority is to put on muscle mass, I'll tell you that it is the best thing you can do is eat every 3 hours. I don't do it. Most of my clients don't do it because that is like the bodybuilding lifestyle. And for me, it's like not sustainable because I don't want to do that. But if it is your number one priority, then I'm like, yeah, then you need to be eating every few hours. You need to make sure that you're staying anabolic, you're getting that protein in your system every few hours, and you're constantly fueled, and you're not going into that catabolic state, which means essentially your body doesn't have the nutrients it needs to maintain the mass you have, so it starts eating away at muscle. And sometimes that's a little bit of fat too, but I mean, if it's your priority right now to gain muscle, then you need to be eating consistently, and you need to be eating enough calories to make sure you can put on mass. So a lot of people, it's actually funny. There's the different ends of the spectrum. A lot of guys who are like skinny or and looking to put on muscle mass, oftentimes like think they're eating more than they actually are, but they're just not being very consistent with it. So tracking your calories, understanding how much you need to eat to actually be able to put on more mass is very important. And then being consistent with it. If it means something to you, then track it in a calorie counter and make sure that you're getting enough calories in. So, if I was going to run your numbers, you probably need to be, eating like probably at least like 3,400 calories a day to start to put on some good mass. And so for some people that's like a lot of calories to try to take on. And
Yeah.
it's a lot of discipline to try to eat those calories and eat the right ones. So the right macronutrient breakdown of like, the protein, getting those healthy sort of just in carbohydrates in your system, like the sweet potatoes or brown rice, the quinoas, and those healthy fats like the avocados and the almonds and the coconut oils and things of that sort. So yeah, man, that's a basic breakdown. It's like getting your nutrition, getting your exercise, and getting your self-care on point. And once you do those three things, you're firing all cylinders. It's just a matter of gamifying. It's you're asking yourself, okay, if I was going to change my nutrition a little bit, what effect would this have on my ability to get stronger, put on more mass? Or how do I need to change my exercise routine? How can I tweak it a little bit? How can I tweak my self-care routine a little bit? What needs to change? Do I need to sleep more? Do I need to engage in more meditation? Maybe I should add yoga to my routine. So it's just it's having fun from there, man. It is a ton of fun because you have this like awesome, beautiful shell of your body that you get to play around with. So it's a fun game that I like to play, and I love helping people with it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it definitely go up and down, and the whole visualization thing, something that you were talking about, I think that that's really powerful because I actually started, I guess it was about a year ago, coming off of a couple of injuries. My goal I had set was I wanted to be able to back squat 200 and deadlift 300. I was coming from everything from issues with my quads and my legs to a torn labrum in my shoulder. So a lot of fun stuff that makes it a lot harder to lift. And I really set the intention to, I wanted to hit that squat of 200 and deadlift of 300. And at the time, I was probably only like halfway there. And I actually hit that a few months back. And I remember going into the 300-pound deadlift because that was like a huge one for me, and there were people in the gym, and I was like, I don't care if I have to scream and shout to get this thing out. Just like you were saying, some sweat and tears have to come out to make that happen. But I kind of went in and I held onto the bar and just closed my eyes and kind of pictured what it looks like to go all the way through that lift, with good form, without anything kind of, breaking apart or falling apart throughout the lift, and it totally works. I mean, I hit it, and obviously that takes a long time to do and to build up to, So how long do you think it takes for somebody who wants to make a difference in their body to start to actually see the difference? Because I know like you can take pictures every single week and you'd probably see it after a few weeks, you start to change, but you don't really notice it because you see yourself every day, so you don't see that change as easily. How long are we looking at just to kind of get that extra kick of motivation of, hey, I see this is working, let's stay with this? Because I know it's not one day or one
Yeah.
week.
Sure. I think most people they can see results. They can see a physical difference in a week, depending on how, depending on what your goals are. If it's fat loss, you can definitely see a difference in a week if you commit to something fully. If it's not fat loss and you're trying to put on muscle, well, I mean, muscle takes some time to put on, right? So it may take like a month or so. But I mean, one of the easiest hacks to make yourself look more muscular is to just lose fat, right? And so you can look like you put on like 10 pounds of muscle by losing like 15 pounds of fat because your shoulder is going to become more sculpted, like your, collarbone is going to become more sculpted, so your chest is going to come out more, like your biceps are going to be more visible, like everything starts to show up and look better. So that's a hack that will allow you to see results faster is by focusing on that fat loss. But if you're just trying to put on some mass, like stuff takes time, man. Depending on where you're starting, of course. Like you can get some beginner gains if you're not like a serious lifter and you're just getting into the game. Like you could definitely put on like 10 pounds in your first like few months. But if you're someone who's been like training a long time, then it could like you could be thrilled. I'd be thrilled putting on like 5 pounds of muscle in an entire year. So it's not going to be super visible, in that right. So yeah, got to play the long game there.
Yeah, definitely. So you brought up a good point though, and this is something that like I think we see in Fight Club, especially with Brad Pitt. Like he lost a lot of weight, so he looked super jacked, but he was actually like fairly skinny and lightweight when he did that movie. And so this is something that I think everybody would be maybe a little more interested in is how about let's take the person who maybe has, that 10 to 15 pounds that they still want to lose. Someone who's been kind of eating kind of crappy for a while, kind of let themselves go. Maybe they had a kid or maybe they just, had stress at work. Let's move into fat loss. We talked about muscle building for a little bit. What do I do if I want to lose that 10 to 15 pounds?
Sure. Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of people think that, well, a lot of guys at least think that like they want to bulk so they can like look more muscular. And really, I end up saying like, listen, man, like you don't want to like you actually don't want to bulk. And a lot of guys like try dirty bulking, and then like they never actually get to that body they want because they put on like a bunch of like just crappy weight for like a few months, and then like they try to lean back out, and they look exactly the same as they did when they started. So it's for those guys, like I really say, you know what? Why don't you just like lean out for the first time like you never have before and see what that looks like and see if it's more similar to the end result that you want. And for women, it's very much the same game we're playing. The same principles I'm going to teach guys, I'm going to teach women. Hormones are a little different. So if I'm working with someone one-on-one, some of the protocols that they'll follow will be a little bit different, but big picture, it really comes down to the same three elements, right? It comes down to your nutrition, it comes down to your exercise, it comes down to your self-care. But really you have to get more specific with the nutrition, of course. Like it becomes a lot more important that you are staying actually under your calorie budget and you are in a calorie deficit. And I mean, that's really all the research has shown. It's like there's a lot of like hacks out there, right? To like lose fat, but like the biggest thing that's been proven time after time, research study after research study, is like eat less calories than you're expending. And it's a pretty simple concept, but it's one that a lot of people don't want to face because they want like more of like an easy way out. But straight up, just track your calories and like find out how many you need to eat to lose fat, and then eat that amount of calories. And I would never tell anyone to like try to eat in a huge deficit because that actually can take you the opposite way. If you're only eating like 1,000 calories a day, you can send your body into like starvation mode, and you could end up putting on fat. So it's important to really find out what your calorie deficit number looks like, and then hit that consistently. So for you, it's probably like, I don't know, it'd probably be like 1,800 calories or something, somewhere around there. And so hitting that consistently, and then making sure that you're not only hitting those calories, but you're starting to really focus on the macronutrient breakdown. So the carbs, fats, and proteins, in the percentage of which each you're eating. And again, there is no exact science. And a lot of right now, it's very popular to say that high fats, high protein diets are the best way to eat. Well, that's not necessarily the truth for everyone. It's been shown in some studies you know, to work better for some than others, but that's just not it. Like, it's not one size fits all, and I see that with clients all the time. It's always about experimenting. You may be someone who needs super high carb, like medium protein, low fat, and that may be like the magic sauce. Like, you may put that formula together and just start shredding that fat really quick. Maybe you do need high fat, medium protein. Maybe you need really, you know, high protein, medium fat, medium carb. And it's just about playing with the numbers and finding out what works best for you personally, because you can't just do what, you know, your buddy is doing and expect it to work the same for you. We all have unique bodies, and our biochemistry is different, and we react differently to food. And there's different stimuluses that, you know, genetically we've been, or there's different stimuluses that we're being exposed to on a daily basis, and there's different things that we're exposed to genetically that we can't account for. So then when it comes down to how many carbs, how many fats, how much protein should I eat, there's like a baseline number you can go after. But from there, you're just experimenting. You're saying, okay, well, I didn't lose any weight this week, and I was, you know, eating 30% carbs, 50% protein, and 20% fat. Maybe I should switch the fat carb ratio just a little bit and see what happens here. So that's the second thing when it comes to nutrition. The third thing you want to talk about is the quality of the foods, and this is so big. So making sure that you're eating tons of whole foods, you're keeping your body alkalized, so you're eating tons of like vegetables, and especially, you know, green vegetables, and you're making sure that you're really treating your body with these rich, organic, nutrient-dense foods. So when it comes to proteins, if you're going to be consuming a lot of protein, you want to have, you know, farm-raised, you know, free-range chicken and eggs and grass-fed beef and wild fish. When it comes to like carbohydrates, you want to be sticking to more of the brown rice, the quinoa, you know, the healthy fruits, the tons of vegetables, the oats, all those types of foods. And then when it comes to fats, you want to really be sticking to like avocados, coconut oil, olive oil, almonds, walnuts, you know, all different types of nuts. But you just have to be careful when it comes to nuts, because they're super calorie dense. So that's why it comes down to tracking and making sure that you're tracking all the calories that are going in your body, because you may not feel like you're eating that much and realize that I just had like a couple of handfuls of nuts, and that was like, you know, my budget that I had for like this amount of time. So nutrition, of course, exercise. Hop into that really quick for fat loss. You want to focus on two main things. You want to make sure you're doing strength training, because it's going to increase, you know, it's basically going to give you a more powerful engine. So you're going to have, when you have that more muscle mass, your resting metabolic rate is going to increase, and also you're going to be burning more fat when you're not in the gym. So making sure that you are doing intense strength training is very important, and you're combining that with HIIT training. So some kind of high intensity interval training, something as simple as for 20 minutes straight, just doing 30 seconds maybe sprinting, and then 10 seconds like walking, 30 seconds sprinting, 10 seconds walking. And you can do this with any exercise, but just doing some kind of like interval training for 20, maybe 30 minutes, and really pushing it again to that point of like failure, where like you're pushing it really hard. So very simple with exercise. If you can get in the habit of maybe going one day on, one day off with with lifting and HIIT training, you'll be in great shape. You'll be shredding super quick. And then finally, of course, self-care. If you're super stressed out and your cortisol levels are up, it's going to be hard for you to lose fat. So make sure that you're doing the right things. You're sleeping, you're eliminating the stress that's in your life, you're not overwhelming yourself, you're engaging in meditation, yoga, you're practicing appreciation every day, you're only surrounding yourself with people who are going to uplift you and make you feel better. And so, yeah, man, it's a very simple game. So those three elements are always going to be in play, whether we're talking about, you know, fat loss or muscle gain, you know, really any goal that we have. Even if like you're an athlete, that's going to come down to the same three things, and really gaining mastery over those three areas.
Cool deal. And it sounds like, I'm sure you get this question quite a bit. There's a lot of stuff going on here. We've got calorie counting. It's very simple things, right? It's just diet, working out, and working on yourself. But at that same time, you've got to, look into adding in yoga or some flexibility work or, some meditation and calorie counting. So I guess I'm sure people probably ask this, how much time involvement do I need to give in like every day and every week to make this work?
Yeah, I mean, it depends what you get automated. So I would say, you know, every day, budget at least like 20 to 30 minutes for exercise. Um, Maybe take one day off a week if you want. So it's not like a ton of time. And then the self-care stuff, it's like, well, that's just going to be, contributing to your quality of life. So however much sleep you need, I don't know what that is for you. And then engaging in like a good morning routine, and that can include some meditation. So maybe budgeting like 30 minutes a day for self-care, whether it's like going through some meditation, maybe some yoga poses, maybe some like personal development reading, maybe like going through some gratitude, some appreciation practice, setting intentions for the day. So yeah, every day maybe like budget an hour for all this stuff and just taking care of yourself. I think it's like the most important thing, right? It contributes directly to your happiness and your overall health. And so that's where you should be investing your time. Anyway, even if like the physical goal isn't the result that you're looking for. Every person on this planet has a goal like being a happy human being, and so that's why it should be an intention of yours to include self-care and exercise into your life. Um, so yeah, man, at least like an hour. And then when it comes to like nutrition, I mean, a lot of the foods you talked about, like you can get created, like you can pick a day of the week and budget some time for like cooking all these meals up, put them in Tupperware, get them ready for the week. Or you can go to Chipotle every day and you can pretty much get like exactly what you need. So yeah, it depends on the individual, but the 80/20 when it comes to all this stuff is like, make sure you're eating, if you want to put on muscle mass, make sure you're eating more than enough calories to put on mass. If you want to lose fat, make sure that you're in a calorie deficit. And if you are looking to put on muscle, make sure when you go in the gym that you are training to failure and you're getting stronger every time you go in. And if you're looking to lose fat, make sure that you are participating at least 3 or 4 days of HIIT training a week. And then the self-care is the same for both. Just make sure that you're being kind to yourself. And that's the 80/20. And of course, like if you want to optimize results, you can bring in everything else, but it's like pretty simple, right? Pay attention to your calories, get a workout in where you have a specific intention.
And I guess, everybody's looking for, the secret or the trick to fat loss. And the truth is, there isn't. Like, these are the principles that have worked time and time again for years and years and years. And, there really is no secret. It's consistency, I guess, if anything, is, picking one plan and sticking to it. And it sounds like you've got a lot of really good resources. I know you shared, a hack earlier today for people. So how could somebody work with you? What is it that you can help them with? I know you got a really cool resource on your website. So tell everybody a little bit more about, if they're interested in losing that weight, if that's something that they really want to do, where can they go to find out more and to work with you?
Absolutely, man. So they can go over to zendudefitness.com. And basically, my my whole philosophy around this like stuff is just make it super simple, make it super fun, and make it happen as fast as possible. Because like that's what I care about, and that's what I like to help people with.
Yeah.
So I really only work with people who are like, listen, just like simplify it for me, and make the process enjoyable, and make it happen as fast as possible. And people are on board with that, then like we usually have a really good like a client coach relationship. So if you want to work with me, you can head over to zendudefitness.com. I also have a free resource available for you guys over there. I have this thing called the 2-bowl meal system, which I think simplifies just eating healthy and making sure that you hit your calories, whatever those are, very easily. And basically what it is, it like teaches you how to create these delicious bowls that you can eat like 2 times a day. And that's like all you have to do. It just simplifies nutrition for you. And so if you guys want to grab that, it's free over at the site.
Good deal. And, this is actually perfect for me right now because I too am going to be signing up for that and checking that out. I actually just had an email come in literally right before we started recording this I'm working towards building my own gym in my garage so I can dedicate myself more towards making sure that I am working out every single day and getting much more consistent with it. So I had an email coming about some equipment that I'm going to be buying and putting a gym together at my house. So, if you guys want this, then go for it. There is no secret to wait for. There is no technology that's going to come out in 2 or 3 years. These same principles have worked time and time again. You just have to do it. So zendudefitness.com with Brandon Epstein, and it's been awesome talking to you. I know you've got way more that we could talk about later on or next time, but thanks again for participating in the summit, and we look forward to keeping in touch.
Yes, sir, dude. It was a pleasure, man.